Hello everyone, it's Friday, September 13th. Friday the 13th. Ooh. But, let's still talk PlayStation. So not surprisingly, there's not a whole lot to talk about this past week because, well, we covered most of it. On Monday, Sony had their Pre-TGS show where they showed off a new PS Vita model for Japan, PS Vita TV, they talked about PS4's release date in Japan, announced a lot of Japanese video games, and really a lot of their bulk announcements were, that happened Monday. But some things happened this past few days, so we'll talk about that stuff. One thing being that Sony offered a new comment in regards to PS Vita TV and the new PS Vita Slim model, PCH 2000, coming to the West. And basically what they're saying is, no plans just yet, which I kind of figured. For the PS Vita Slim model PCH 2000, Sony's basically saying that it's just for, Japan right now, and that they're going to explore every opportunity for Vita, which would mean that, it's certainly possible it will come at some point, and I'm pretty confident that it will. For PS Vita TV, Sony followed up with a not so positive response, saying that the whole point of PS Vita TV initially and right now currently is their plan to expand on Asian markets. So they want to launch in Korea, they want to launch in China, they want to launch in Japan, and there are no plans for Western territories as of right now. The fact that they're highlighting those other territories before it even comes out in Japan kind of notes that we might not see this device for a while in the West if it does actually come. Which, again, my prediction is I don't think we actually will see this thing come to the West, just because I just don't think it will. Sometimes that's what Sony does with these things, but if it does come over, again, I wouldn't be completely shocked. It would make sense to bring it over still. I think it's a good device that could possibly sell pretty well. But as of right now, Sony is focusing on Asian markets, and we might have to wait a little bit. Keep in mind, though, that for this YouTube channel, I will be importing both of them to cover it for you. Do, hardware reviews and comparisons and all that good junk. Things that YouTube is for, I'll be doing that for you. So this next news story relates directly with YouTube. Inside Gaming Daily, which is that little show that Machinima does on their own YouTube channel, they have a source and a rumor suggesting that the PS4's sharing feature, capturing feature, the share button, that whole thing, won't allow you to upload to YouTube. Like, they're just not going to let you do that and give you that option. And of course, they're also saying that the PS4 is going to have HDCP protection, much like the PlayStation 3 has. Now, if you don't know what that is, HDCP basically means that if you're trying to capture footage from the PlayStation 3 through HDMI with a capture card, capture device, however you want to do that, if you want to do it by HDMI, you can't. There's a protection on it. That's what Sony used to stop, possibly Blu-ray movies being captured and put on the internet with no resolution degrading or quality loss or anything like that. It's just sort of a security measure. But one way how most gamers got around it, and myself including, gamers would use the PS4's component port, the regular port that most people would use, and then we'd do it that way and what have you, and we could record our footage, and we didn't have to do it through HDMI. But since the PS4 is not going to have that port, it will only be HDMI, and if it does have HDCP protection, that means that you can't use the sharing button to upload footage, and that means you can't capture it through a capture card. Now, one way, of course, would be, very obviously, you can use a stripper, a stripping device that basically connects between the capture card and your PS3 or PS4, and doing so by HDMI strips the HDCP protection, but that is actually pretty illegal. I'm probably not explaining this in the best technical way possible, excuse my poor choice of words, but that is in a sense what it means. So basically, Sony is cutting all avenues of how to record and upload footage directly to YouTube. And of course, there's a lot of details we don't know about just yet, like if Sony will allow this footage to be taken off the PS4 through an external hard drive or USB drive or something like that, so then we can edit the footage later. But then there's all sorts of other things that go into this. Like Mark Cerny was on Jimmy Fallon, and he said, gamers can upload their footage and upload it to YouTube and Ustream and Facebook and all that. Things have been said in regards to doing YouTube and uploading YouTube footage. All of this is kind of a big serious thing, because if Sony, is Sony trying to stop their footage being put on YouTube? Now, this is kind of a serious thing. YouTube is one of the biggest websites ever. It's a big place where we all share our stuff. We should be allowed to share our stuff, and it's pretty much accepted at this point that we can share and even monetize game footage and stuff like that. It's just kind of a thing that this community loves to do, and that's what YouTube's really all about for, at least for gamers, and it should be allowed. It definitely should be, at least in my eyes. That's also free advertising for them and all that, and games aren't the kind of thing where you can watch them and not have to buy it yourself because it's a game, different experiences and all that. You see what I'm getting at. But if Sony wants to stop YouTube, that's a big red flag. I mean, Sony's going to be pissing off a lot of people if they honestly want to stop YouTube support and they don't want PS4 games to be put onto YouTube. Now, one big thing about all this is that I highly doubt that is the case. Reason being why I don't think that's the case is that Sony is a huge giant company. I feel like they would definitely understand something like that. And one thing Sony's really good at is social media. They have more Facebook likes than their competition. They have more YouTube subscribers than their competition. They have more Twitter followers than the Sony is really good at social media, actually, and they're very connected in that sense. And again, they have close to 2 million subscribers on YouTube. I feel like they totally get the YouTube idea. So I just feel like that's something they wouldn't try and, why would they try and block YouTube? And of course, Shuhei Yoshida on Twitter has responded to this little issue. Shuhei tweeted basically saying, "We are listening and we are exploring all possibilities of blah 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 to make you guys happy." Basically saying he understands, he hears you guys loud and clear. And I think that's what's really important about this current upcoming generation is the fact that listening to consumers. Microsoft's been having to do it like crazy if they want to even get people to consider paying $500 for that thing. So I think Sony still has a lot to prove. They still got to win the consumer over. As a company, you're never done winning the consumer over. You always have to constantly do it and always have to please them. And if there's any doubt in the consumer's mind that something might, a red flag comes up, you as a company should try and knock it down. Now, I feel like the reason why Shuhei wouldn't just knock it off right off the bat is because if the PS4 is currently being manufactured right now, software-wise, they could patch the PS4 to allow that share button to go to YouTube if it's not available day one. They can patch that. HDCP, I believe, is a different situation. I believe that's a little bit of a hardware aspect. So since Sony's currently making PS4s, that's something they can't. As far as I know, that's not something they can just take out right now. It's hardware, so at least I think. I don't know if they can patch that. I didn't look into that. I'm not too knowledgeable on that subject. You'll have to excuse me if that email notification went into the audio. But point being, HDCP, I don't know if it's going to be if it's all hardware side, if it's all software side, or if it's a little bit of both. From my understanding, it's a little bit of both, so maybe a software patch could fix HDCP protection and allow people to use capture cards and things of that nature, but the share button would obviously be fixable, or Sony would just allow people to take the files off the PS4 and take it to your computer. I believe it's a very fixable situation, even if, for example, capture cards couldn't be used, or Sony would even just straight up recommend using a splitter, even though they wouldn't take legal action. It's a really complicated thing, like everything else is nowadays. But the fact that Shuhei obviously hears you loud and clear, and the fact that Sony hears us loud and clear. In fact, one thing Sony did maybe 2 weeks ago, announced that PS4 was not going to support Arabic language. Well, and then Sony immediately responded saying, "We hear you guys and we're trying to work on it," immediately. So that's really important for this company to respond to people's concerns, and if they're hearing us now, then they'll obviously correct any problems in the future. At least in my eyes, I think they will. Like I said, they got to prove it to us, and that would be one way of doing so. Now let's move on to Jackie Tretton, President and CEO of Sony Computer Entertainment America. He was recently on Fox Business talking about PS4. What wouldn't he be talking about, obviously? And revealed a couple of interesting things about the PS4 manufacturing process, which is going on right now. They're producing a lot of systems. Obviously, Jack isn't divulging how many numbers. The only thing that we're being told right now are 1 million PS4s are pre-ordered currently. He's not giving any updated figures on that matter. But what he is saying that Sony is actually holding back stock right now. They're not letting any more pre-orders come through, but they have extra systems ready to go. And what Sony's strategy right now is that they want people to walk in day one, November 15th, without a pre-order and still be able to purchase the system. And even throughout this, they want this to continue throughout the holidays. One interesting question Jack was pressed about during this interview with Fox Business is that, what do they have over the competition? Now, I know people don't like me talking about Xbox that much on this channel because this is the PlayStation channel, it's PlayStation News, but quite frankly, Xbox is the biggest competitor, and this was a really interesting thing that Jack said. He said it's a threefold thing. We're the most powerful console on the market, which they are. It's been proven, it's been said by many developers. In fact, this past week there was a huge NeoGAF crazy thing going on where one developer said PS4 is 50% more powerful and faster and stuff, and it was a huge thing. The Microsoft had to defend themselves. whole scenario. The reason why I don't talk about that too much is because no matter how more powerful PS4 is, third-party developers are going to try and make the games look as similar as possible. And where, you know, the graphics are really going to shine is Sony's first party. We've seen that before. But point being, you know, Jack said straight up point one, PS4 is more powerful. Right. And then he said it's $100 less. And I think that hits a real home run for some people that maybe aren't that invested in the video game industry looking at that interview. Like, boom, $100 cheaper. We're more powerful than the competition. And then they said, you know, which I absolutely agree with, a more diverse lineup of games. Which even at launch, I you know, would agree with. A lot of people do like the Xbox One's launch lineup and do actually prefer it over the PS4s. And for me, at least, you know, my personal preference, which I guess is why I have a PlayStation channel, I don't see that. I think there is a far more diverse lineup on Sony's part, but I guess it, you know, really lends to itself how good Sony's doing this generation. And it really, this is like a big thing because this is what's on, you know, Fox, and it's being told out throughout the world. People are seeing this. It's building up that momentum that Sony clearly has. Analysts are saying Sony's definitely going to win this generation. And one thing I was at least thinking about in terms of unit sales and all that, I mean, if you look at this past generation with the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, today, right now, Sony is in second place. Like, they actually caught up. And they caught up from a extremely rough start, a $600 box that had no games, and an incredibly wrong marketing strategy of, hey, this is a hub media Blu-ray player, and games didn't seem like the top priority back then for Sony. Kind of what Microsoft is kind of close to doing, but they had like a whole DRM thing, and that was really terrible. But, you know, Sony had a really bad launch, and they actually caught up, you know. They were able to do it. So if they've got this much of a... And they were obviously a year... they came out a year after the Xbox 360. So at least in my eyes, when you look at it this way, they're coming out only a week difference, which, you know, ain't much, and they've got this much of a mindshare lead when it comes to, like, how many people are going to buy a PS4 over an Xbox One. I think Sony is in a very good position right now. A very, very good position to easily excel the competition. And, you know, will they? Obviously, like I said earlier in this part, it's their job to keep that up, to please consumers, always make the PS4 look more, just a better place to be. You know, like, it doesn't stop day one. This is something that goes on for another 8 years. I mean, obviously, PlayStation's my favorite platform. Obviously, this is a PlayStation-only channel, so I have good things to say about the company. But you guys know I'm very critical of the company and what Sony does, and I do call them out when they slip up on things. But they're doing really good right now. They're in such a good position, and they just got to keep it up. They just got to keep going. And I'm a gamer. I obviously want them to do good. And even if you're watching this right now and you perhaps don't like Sony and PlayStation, you need them to do good because it keeps your platforms competitive. That's what this industry is all about. Hope you enjoyed today's discussion on Let's Talk PlayStation. We got a lot of busy weeks coming up. And by busy, I mean playing video games for fucking hours because that's what we're all going to be doing. Just gonna give you some updates. Killzone Mercenary, I'm reviewing it right now. Fun game. That should be up in a few days. I'm also gonna be reviewing Puppeteer. That should be up in a few days. Obviously, we're all gonna get Grand Theft Auto 5. I can't wait. It's one of my favorite game franchises of all time. I'll obviously review it, but who knows when? Because I'm gonna be playing the hell out of that game. Screw my YouTube channel. I'm playing that game, and hope you all enjoy the game. Hope you all enjoyed today's discussion. Hope you all enjoyed today's episode of Let's Talk PlayStation, blah, blah, blah. I'm Ryan Benecki. Thank you all so much for talking with me. Hey, I'll see you guys next Friday.